Hi, my name is Liliana, and I'm doing my Sequence 2 project on the dying arts. I have a presentation about it linked in the bio, so you can follow along if you want to. You don't have to, but I probably will take it personally. No, I won't. Or anyways, so the dying arts. I want to focus specifically on how the preservation of the arts is essential to our preservation of culture and history as a whole. So the topics I want to cover are essentially just what is culture and the role of art in culture. And I also want to go over the importance of artistic expression in society and how it can shape our society. And then we're going to address the problem, statistics related to the problem, and then I'm going to have my other resources linked if anyone wants to check it out. So, the Oxford Language Dictionary defines culture as the customs, arts, and social institutions and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. Essentially, culture is a way of life, and it's how history is passed down through generation and generation. It's important to understand that culture doesn't ever stay the same. There's no one culture that is the exact same now as it was 200 years ago. It has to adapt and evolve and change as time goes on. If not, then we're just at a standstill. So, the role of art in culture. Art always means something. Inherently, art has to mean something in order to be art. It's never just a pretty song or a colorful picture. It always has meaning. So, the culture in which a piece of art is made always shines through the piece. Even now, looking at films that come out in 2020 versus like 2025 and so on, we will always see parts of the way society was at that time showing through in our songs, our movies, our art pieces, all of that. The Lifestyle Sustainability Directory also refers to art as a tangible link to the past. So it's a good way to look back on our past and how it's changed. And it's also a way that people within one culture can connect with each other as well as connect with their own history and generations that came before them. So I've broken up the importance of artistic expression in society into four main groups: communication, empathy, personal well being, and educational development. So, the biggest thing with art is that it transcends language barriers. Um, it doesn't mean just one thing all around, it can mean different things to different people. You don't have to speak the language of the artist to understand it. Even songs that are in a language you don't understand, you can always find some meaning in. Because this relates to empathy, because art transcends language barriers, it helps us understand other cultures and find a way to connect with other cultures and realize that people that are different from us aren't completely different from us, and it gives us something to connect with other people. Personal well-being. It's proven that engaging in the creation of art, even if you aren't conventionally like talented, just using that part of your brain is amazing for improving mental health. And children creating art, it's known that creating art helps with creativity, and creativity is essential in the like critical thinking aspect of your life. Education and development. Yeah, that relates to personal well-being because it's related to your critical thinking. Showing children art from the past is also a good way to teach them about the past in a way that they can connect with rather than just, you know, sitting them down and speaking at them or giving them a book. Showing them art or having them listen to music or watch movies, it is another way to consume that information. So when we're looking at the problem, I've also broken that up into 4 bits. I've broken it up into corporate dominance, AI, the devaluation of art, and economic issues and instability. So, starting off with corporate dominance, the art world altogether, whether it's the music industry, the fine arts, the film industry, a lot of that is dominated by just a couple few like major corporations, and it's really hard to get your work out there and become not necessarily like fully like famous, but like to become successful in a way that you can maintain your way of life and maintain being alive. It's hard to get your work out there and make money off of it without having those big corporations behind you. And a lot of times, because these corporations are so big and they have pretty much, you know, the run of the litter, like they can pick whoever they want, they're gonna go for people who already are in the industry, such as like Nepo babies. This relates to AI because the use of AI in art automatically, if you're using AI to create art, it is a lot faster than any traditional mode of art ever will be, which means it can be cheaper. So the faster you produce that, the more money you make. The devaluation of art education. Because it is so hard to make money as an artist due to competing with AI and big corporations, people tend to study it less in school, and we all are taught from a very young age that art doesn't necessarily have any menial value. Like it can be a hobby, but you won't be able to make a career out of art. We're pushed more towards like STEM or social sciences. And because we're taught that, like even like in elementary schools, because we're taught that, children start to lose that like value of art in their minds. And then as the generations go on, they're going to teach their kids the same thing, and it's just going to be a continuous cycle. And then the economic issues and instability is a direct result of the other three issues, because artists are competing with corporations, AI, they're taught not to study it in school. There's just like less value of art, and where there's less value, there's less money to be made. And if people basically, it's hard for actual artists to survive because they cannot compete with big corporations or AI when making their art. Because at the end of the day, you have to value yourself as an artist and price your work accordingly based off how much time it took you or resources, and you're never going to be able to compete with a bigger corporation on that. My next slide is, I just have one statistic on here on art enrollment in K through 12 courses. So we have a graph, and there is one orange line and one green line. The green line is fine arts and the orange is music. We're starting at 2014, and the graph covers 2014 through 2021. Even just the past 10 years, we see a decline in the enrollment in art education. We see a jump right before the 2020 recession, but as soon as we hit that recession, it declines like rapidly. And then on my very next slide, I have resources if you want to take a look at that. And then thank you. And that's all I have to say. Good day to you.